This is homework section 10, questions 1 through 11. Question 1 says to square this binomial. Now we have a template for this. Here's what we do. We square the first. So I got two terms here. I have a, and I'm going to think of this as -3. So square the first. I get a squared. Now multiply these two terms together. A times -3 is -3a. So multiply the two together, -3a, but you double it. So if I have -3a, double it, I get -6a. And then square the last. Now, if I square the last, -3 times -3 is +9, and we are done. Special product again in number 2, right? What do we have? Binomial squared, so I'm squaring two terms. Here's the pattern. Square the first, x squared. Multiply these two together. They're both positive, so x times 2, I'll write it as 2x, but you double it, so you get +4x, and then you square the last. 2 squared is 4. You know what? I don't really like the way that 2 came out here, so I'll just rewrite it, 2. All right, so here's what we did. We squared the first, x squared. Multiply these two together, 2x, double it, 4x, squared the last, 4. Question 3, we are squaring two terms, so we have a pattern. Square the first, multiply these two together and double it. Multiply them together, I get 12x, double it, I get 24x, and square the last. So square the last. 12 squared times 12 squared is 144. If you don't know it, do it on your calculator, but you'll get to know it because we'll do it often. So here's what I did. I squared the first, x squared. And then I multiplied the two together. +12 times +x is +12x. Double it, 24x. Square the last. Question 4, we are squaring another binomial, right? Two terms, so we're squaring it. So let's use our pattern, our template. So square the first, x squared. Let me see if I can get it to right. X squared. Now multiply these two together, -10x, and double it. -20x, and then square the last. -10 squared is 100. So here's what we did. We squared the first, x squared. We multiplied these two together, -10x, doubled it, -20x, and then we squared the last. -10 times -10, +100. That's our result. Question 5, once again, we're squaring a binomial, so here's our template. Square the first. So the first is this 25, the first is 5a, square it, we'll get 25a squared. Now multiply these two together and double it. Multiply them together, I get 10a. If I double it, I get 20a, and then square the last, +4. There we go. I squared the first, 25a squared. Multiply the two together. +5a times +2 is +10a, double it, +20a, and then square the last. Question 6, yet another binomial that we're going to square, so let's use our template. Square the first. Now 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Multiply these two together. Multiply them together. 3x times 2y is 6xy, but you double it. So plus 12xy, and then square the last. That 2y times 2y is +4y squared. Let's square 5m minus 8n. So we're squaring a binomial, so talk your way through it. Say the pattern and write what you say. Square the first. 5m, square it. 25m squared. Multiply the two together. Multiply these two together. Positive times negative is -40mn, or nm, mn, but you double it. So -80mn, and then square the last. Square the last. -8n times -8n is +64n squared. Now, in question 8, look at these two terms. They're conjugates. There's one difference in sign. I got an a and a 3. This one's plus, this one's minus. So these are called conjugates. A plus 3, a minus 3. And the template for this is to square the first, put a minus sign, square the second. So I'm just looking at this one here. Square the first, put a minus sign, square the second. 3 squared is 9. Square the first, put a minus sign, square the second. Conjugates, right here in number 9, I got 4 plus y and then 4 minus y, difference in sign. So here's the template. Square the first, 4 squared is 16. Put a minus sign, square the second. Y squared. 16 minus y squared. Number 10, conjugates again. What have we got? We have 4 plus 9, 4y plus 9, 4y minus 9, just one difference in sign, so use our template, our pattern, square the first, 4y, square it, 16y squared, put a minus sign, square the second. 9 squared is 81. Question 11, we've got 2 terms times 2 terms, and they happen to be conjugates, right? One is plus, one is minus, so let's use our template. We'll square the first. 6 squared is 36. Put a minus sign to square the second. Now when I say the first, I'm dealing with the first one here and the first one here. So square the first, 36. Put a minus sign, square the second. 8y times 8y is 64y squared. And that brings us to an end of questions 1 through 11 in homework set 10.